Reasons, yes, and that is one of them, because Paul was a persecutor of the church. So, boy, it got quiet. It's always quiet when I go to look something up. I thought it was in 1 Thessalonians in the early part. Maybe it was like maybe it was in Timothy, where Paul tells us that he was the example for this cause. It was either 1st, 2nd Thessalonians, 1st, 2nd Timothy, somewhere in the early part of the books.
1 Corinthians chapter 11.
No, it's one of the you can read it, but I don't think it was that. But anyway, I'll find it another time and come back to it. But he literally says that he was an example to us as a believer, as believers. So, the problem is I know where it's located in my old Bible, so I could just scan the one little spot, and this one isn't that old or isn't that new. I should know where it's at, but
What did you say you thought it was in?
it's either 1st, 2nd Thessalonians or 1st, 2nd Timothy. I thought it was in the Thessalonians.
This one says 2 Thessalonians 3.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think it is.
I think it was early on in the introduction of the epistle, where he talks about my brain's not braining right now, so
That's fine. I'm just Googling it. I'm not picking
Yeah.
it up on there.
all right. Any other things that you want to talk about?
So anyway, I was just thinking about that, and then you were talking towards the end of the sermon. And there was something you said, and it was a spark when I was talking about Paul. You saying that he was already saved, so that wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying at the end of your sermon? That I know we were
Julie
in
might have found it.
Romans.
1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 16.
Yes. Yep, that's it. If you back up to verse 12, 1 Timothy 1:12, I think Jesus Christ our Lord, who hath enabled me, for that he counted me faithful, putting me into the ministry, who was before a blasphemer and a persecutor and injurious, but I have obtained mercy because I did it ignorantly in unbelief. And the grace of our Lord was exceedingly abundant with faith and love, which is in Christ Jesus. This is a faithful saying worthy of all acceptance, that Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners, of who I am chief. Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy, that in me first Jesus Christ might show forth all long-suffering for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on him to life everlasting. So, he took the chief, what Paul says he's the chief, that is because he persecuted the church. And if God can use the Apostle Paul, someone like that, then he can use all of us. It shows his long suffering and so on. So it has nothing to do with us. No one can say, Well, God can't use me because fill in the blank. He used someone that was trying to murder, kill the people of believers. So,
And so that got me thinking about the second question. You were talking about the closing, in the closing of your sermon, you were talking about what your old teacher used to say.
okay. Satan offers his best up front, and it just gets worse.
Yeah.
And it gets better and better and better.
My question is can you elaborate on the how it gets better and better and better? Because
Okay.
a lot
Sure.
of us, we see that persecution.
Yeah.
We lose family, we lose friends.
Right.
The foundation is shook.
Yep.
Can
Yep.
you elaborate on that?
Okay, so when someone understands the gospel, that God loved us, He became one of us, He lived a perfect life, He died in our place, He paid for our sins. Okay, He did all of that. That's that's great. He gets my sin, the punishment that I deserve. I get His righteousness. I get that right standing with God. That's wonderful. And when a person comes to realize that, usually we call it like, we're on cloud nine kind of a thing. This is awesome. Okay. Then we start our daily life. Well, instead of God just saying, okay, I did all this for you, now you better try to make it up. You better try to live a life that pleases me, but I'm not going to help you at all. I'm not going to do anything. He didn't do that. He said, not only did I pay for your sin, I'm giving you my Spirit. I'm giving you these precious promises that you have all of these things. I want a relationship with you so that you are relying on me on a daily, moment by moment basis so I can show those things in your life, and it's me doing it through you. Not only that, it's going to get better because when you serve me and do all this, I'm going to reward you for it then too. I mean, I didn't even get into that part, but it's getting better and better. Now, the things on this earth, yes, you can lose family members, friends, things like that. That can and usually will happen. Not saying that the things on this earth is going to get better and better. It's the things with God and the future in eternity that's getting better and better.
I was just curious on that.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, wouldn't it be nice if once we became believers that all of our problems started getting solved on this earth? Doesn't happen, though. We will have problems on this earth. A lot of times we have more problems as a believer because now we're going against.
Yeah. And you're fighting this invisible wave of just everything around
Right.
you.
Yeah. Yep. He hasn't established the dominion yet, so guess who's in charge?
Yeah.
It's a satanic system, yes. All right, anything else?
I guess I want to say, we don't have to fight in our own strength,
No, we don't.
Yeah.
depending on the Lord for our strength and our guidance and
Yeah, it's
not
that,
our own.
the key is to remember to rely on Him
Exactly.
every day through, like He said, moment by moment.
Yeah.
But it's so easy when we have that part of us that just wants to be like, but I want to do this.
Yeah. All right. That's it?
I have more, but I want to ask those outside class.
Okay. Oh, you can go outside. I'm going to stay in here. This world, there's always problems. I mean, even if it's not relational, it can be health problems. And, it's really can be comforting knowing that this isn't it. That, like when I think of my uncle and, he's just hurting, going through a lot, And more than likely, unless God intervenes, it's not going to get better for him. But knowing where he's going to be is huge. I mean, it's everything. So when we hit those things like that, to me it's motivation. It's reminders to know that this is all temporary. Some of us might have health now. We might have all kinds of good things now, but they're temporal, right? I can't do the things I could do when I was 20, and another 20 years from now, I'm not going to be able to do the things I can now, and if I'm even here, right? So, you start to realize just how fragile and temporal this life is, and it should really motivate us to get people to understand the gospel and to live for Christ.
I think one of the things that was the most comforting when I lost my brother was that he actually was a Christian.
Yeah.
The rest of us kids maybe weren't really. I was like, I thought I believed in God, but I don't think I knew really what
Sure.
it was all about.
Right.
And my brother and my sister, I don't know about them. And now my sister is, and I don't know about my brother, my other brother. But my brother that was killed had, the Lord had touched him. That's all I can say. And that was such a comfort.
Yeah. Yep.
To know that someday I'll see him.
Yep.
And that he went because, God wanted him at that point or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it matters.
Right. Yep. All right. Anything else? I thought there'd be tons of questions. Ephesians chapter 1 is just kind of loaded.
It is, but it's one of those things where I gotta I wasn't in it today a lot, so my mind just wasn't, it was foggy. But, James chapter 1,
Okay.
verse 2.
Count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations.
Yes. That one's a hard one.
Well, you got to keep going. Right?
Okay.
Knowing, so there's something you have to know, you have to understand. Knowing this, that the trying of your faith works patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So we got to define a few things here, because typically when we hear the word patience, we're thinking of I can be relaxed or calm, or things don't get to me, that kind of patience.
I understand it as enduring.
The word, yeah, that's what it means. It's an enduring or a consistency. Okay, so diverse, multiple different, what we would call more trials, things that are happening. This isn't the inward temptation necessarily as an outward trying. Okay, and so it's the trying of your faith. Will you trust God through this, whatever it is? Will you rely on Him? Okay, because that worketh an endurance. When you get used to relying on God, and you know that He always comes through, it's going to make you want to do it more, in a sense. You know that He is faithful. You know that no matter what it is, I can rely on Him. Okay? Because that's what it's doing. It's patience, or that endurance work. Let it work so that you can be complete. Like no matter what you're facing, I know I can rely on God through this. And I'm lacking nothing. I'm in no...
Say you're relying on Christ and it's still not. Like you know Christ wants it to be what he wants. Like you and Christ want the same thing, but it's not working that way.
The end result, so let me put it this way. He doesn't take away the trial. He gets you through the trial.
Okay.
Now, so someone who has a loved one that's sick, dealing with stuff, he doesn't say, well, you've been trusting me, so I'm going to make them well. They may pass away, and he'll give us the strength and comfort to get through it. So,
What if that sick person was an unbeliever?
yeah, then it doesn't mean, so my faith and my relying on him and my Christ getting me through it doesn't change the fact that they can still die and be without. So say evangelism. There's someone that I'm witnessing to and I want to see them and I'm doing everything right. I'm relying on God and all these things. There's no guarantee that that person's going to get saved. Okay. It'd be nice.
So that's where my question comes in is how do you count it all joy then?
Well, this isn't talking, when I'm reaching out to someone in evangelism, I wouldn't call that a trial or a temptation. You know, this is talking about the outside world doing things, trials in that sense.
Okay, so is this referring to inward then or outward?
I think it's talking about more outward things. I don't think it's talking about necessarily our sin nature. He addresses it later on where I can see clearly that's our sin nature. If I remember right when I looked up this word, it could go either way.
I was just curious.
The diverse
about
temptations.
how you can- It was more counting it all joy, even if it is from the outward.
Okay,
The
so,
joy part of that, how do you have joy when
well, it doesn't
you're
say,
doing what you're supposed to be doing, but yet you're
so there's,
still seeing that it's
so there's
how
a difference.
are you supposed to have joy when someone is still going to hell?
It it's not saying that you are going to have joy, you are to count it all joy. So in other words, most of us have had Romans 8:28 probably quoted to us when we were going through a hard time. Mm-hmm. All things work together for good. Well, boy, doesn't that just brighten your day when you've lost a loved one?
So like John Yates was actually talking on this stuff, so that's why I'm curious.
Okay,
about it.
so now that is a true statement. All things work together for good for those who love the Lord, those who are called according to his purpose, right? That is true. It works together for good. It doesn't mean that you're going to be happy or have joy. It's a truth that we latch onto by faith that no matter what is going on, when we are trusting God, he's going to work it somehow for good. Whether that is to motivate me to get more serious about my walk with him, whether it's other people outside that I'm not aware of, I can count that as a true concept, principle that God has set in motion. Just like when it says, count it all joy, I'm going through this, you know what? That means God is working in my life, and God is giving me an opportunity to grow, and God is going to do something through this, whether I see it or not.
Christ or God is doing versus what is actually going on.
Yes, very much. Yeah, Julie.
I was gonna say, I think, with John Yates' lecture, I don't know if that's the point where he brought up Corrie ten Boom about the fleas in this prison cell. And so it's basically you're enduring this situation with all these fleas, but that allowed Christ to then, through Corey, get all these other people to believe. So you are enduring affliction, but count it joy in the end because more people have been saved in the end.
Right. It wasn't joyful going through
No,
it.
it wasn't joyful going through it.
Yeah.
But,
It's just like, if you've ever experienced chastening of the Lord, you know, you've done something you knew you shouldn't do, you continued in it, and something happens and you know, I'm getting chastened. Well, the joyous part is I'm one of his children, and he loves me enough to do this, and he wants me to correct me and bring me back to him. That's what I can take joy in, not the correction itself.
My husband was going through after he was first diagnosed with cancer. We prayed for him, of course, for his getting better and recovering. And Romans 12:12 was one that I am kind of rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, and continuing in prayer. Your rejoicing is not that, you know, and everything is going to be okay. You rejoice in the hope, but you know the hope is not in your control. It's in his control.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I'm trying to ask the questions without it getting into like what the situation is.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm trying to keep the drama,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. 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 You know, you can count things joy because you know who God is, what he's doing, what his promises are, what he's going to be doing in your life, and that not necessarily you're counting it joy that you get to go through that circumstance. Sierra.
So, one of my friends told me that God gives us, like, he makes scenarios, like, I don't know, like driving in a snowstorm or something like that. And he gives us these things from us to learn from, which, like, I just don't understand.
Well, I guess I'm not sure what your friend means by it. You know, it's difficult to say unless they were here to define what they actually mean. There are plenty of situations we go through in everyday life where we can learn that God doesn't necessarily have to orchestrate it. It's just things happen. You know, think of Jonah. Jonah was told to go do something. Jonah goes the other way. God didn't make him get on that ship and go the opposite way. That was Jonah's doing that. He didn't have to create that scenario, but God's going to use that scenario to give him a lesson. You know, he's going to intervene into that. And I think that, you know, in our daily lives, there's all kinds of things that can be going on that we can learn from, but it's always taking it back to what does the Bible say about what I should do, how I should respond, what is true, what is not, things like that. You know, each and every day we got to hit those things.
I think that's what she was trying to get at. I just
Okay.
don't understand.
Yeah, and without me really knowing all the ins and outs, it's hard for me to say what she meant, but yeah. Okay, anything else? Yeah, Tracy.
Kind of on the tail of what she was talking about, it's hard to know, you know, because you know that God is in control of everything here, and yet he lets things go on, or, you know, we're in a broken world, to use Zach's words.
Yeah.
And so things happen, and it's always hard to know, okay, is he letting this happen for a reason, or is it just part of the world and you just depend on him and go from there?
I would say yes. It's part of the broken world, and if it's happening, he's allowing it to happen. But there's always a purpose in as believers. You know, there's all kinds of very wicked and evil things, and I'm not trying to say that, well, God's in control of everything, so he caused that to happen. James, that's one thing that's nice about the book of James is, since we were just there, I turned away, but in chapter 1, verse 13, let no man say that when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. So, the evil that's out there is man yielding himself to his own sinful self, not God saying, well, you know, that person, they're just doing too good. I really need them to do this evil stuff, you know. There's some that, again, we're going to hit a lot on Calvinism, because when you get too far in a Calvinist camp, that's what they're going to be saying is, well, no, God caused that to happen. If it happened, he caused it to happen. And I've literally had people say things, you know, like, when that happened to that woman, terrible act, well, that God caused that. Like, no, he didn't. That's not biblical. You know, he doesn't tempt man with sin. Okay, man is drawn away of his own lusts. He does it himself. You know, so I think that there's some false thinking out there that gets applied. Because is God sovereign? Yes. Define what you mean by God's sovereignty, because there's a big difference between, you know, I liken it to if we have, in some nations, they still have kings, right? Is that king sovereign? Yes. Does that mean no one rebels against him? No, not at all. Does that mean that his will and his wishes are always carried out? No, doesn't mean that at all. God is sovereign. There's no one above him. He can do anything he wants inside of his character. He can't lie, okay? So I don't say, well, God can do anything. Well, no, he can't. His character of righteousness, he never steps outside of that. So when he is sovereign, but yet the things that he has put into place, man having a free will, God not overriding that, so man can rebel and do things outside of God's will. You know, Jesus said to the nation of Israel, how long have I wanted to gather you under my wings like a hen gathers her chickens, but you are not willing. You know, so his intention, his will was plainly talked about, proclaimed, and yet Israel could rebel against it. Just like when God told the nation of Israel through Moses to take the land. And they come back and say, He says, okay, then wander in the wilderness. Oh, no, we'll take it now. Too late. It's not going to be pretty. And they do it anyway. You know. So was that God saying, well, I'm telling you to take the land, but I don't really want you to take it, so I'm causing you not to take it, so then I can get mad at you and tell you to wander around, and then you're going to say you're taking it, because that's what I really wanted, and then you're going to go back in, but I'm not going to give you the victory, so I mean, that would drive you crazy if you believe that's how God operated. And it also is an easy way to justify sin. Because if I do this, well then, God must have wanted me to do it because I did it. I mean, if you follow that logic, that's where it goes, you know, so.
I often have a hard time questioning how is God in control when there's free will?
Okay, so I don't use the word control. He's sovereign, because when man sinned and brought sin into this world, who is the prince of the power of the air? Who is the God of this world? Satan, right? So now he's limited because God is sovereign, but we're in a rebellious state here. It's like mutiny on a ship. Yeah, there's a captain, but the people are going against and not following the orders. You know, so that's, I try to stay away from, well, God is in control of everything. Because to me, that can be misleading. I know what some people mean by it, that there's no one above God, but other people take it as like, he's causing these things. He's in control of these things.
The same as in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
God is sovereign. He knew what was going to happen because he knows everything. And he already had a plan in place.
Right.
Genesis 3.
So it's kind of like when you're watching a little baby crawling around by the dog food and you're like, I better put that up, otherwise they're gonna eat it.
Exactly.
You're like, at that moment, you're the sovereign one, but you know exactly what's gonna happen,
Yes.
so.
But you didn't cause him to do it.
Gotcha.
And it tastes really bland.
Is that the dry or the wet?
And
Savannah's the dog
that
food eater.
we
Yeah.
would dare each other to do things. That was one of them.
Next time we have a potluck, remind me what Tracy brings.
We're good if it's cheese
I've
and
kind of
crackers.
grown that.
Might be okay with gravy.
Gravy hides a multitude of sins.
I do
Yeah.
have a question on Job.
Sure.
I'm having a hard time getting my mind around why God did that to Job.
But God didn't do it to Job.
But he did. He told Satan he could do it.
Right.
Right. And he wouldn't have had to have allowed it.
No.
No. So,
So here's this guy that's like living the good life, doing what he was supposed to do, and God's like, yeah, let's see what you can do with him, Satan.
what was Job's focus on the beginning?
Yeah, it probably was kind of more on himself.
He was concerned about his family, right? He was he did good. He stayed away from evil. He was a very upright man. In other words, there was nothing, because his friends wanted to say, well, you must have sinned. And he's like, no. I mean, this is the condensed version. Yeah, you did. No. Okay, that goes on for chapter after chapter. I mean, it's kind of funny in a way. His friends, you give them a little bit of credit because they stayed with him a week before they even said a word. You know, so you give them that. But their theology was terrible, you know. And Job justified himself instead of God. Okay.
Is that, I'm reading verse 5, just the very end of it. And it says it may be that he's offering burnt offerings. And it says it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed
Yep.
God in their hearts.
Yep.
So he's showing that he can essentially pay for their salvation.
Well, he's trying to atone for their sin. I would put it that
and
way.
he can't do that because it's not
Well,
him.
remember, this is before the priestly line and all of that, and so it's not like, I don't think Job is trying to say, I can save my sons their salvation. I think he's just like, I know that they may have sinned, so just in case they did, I'm going to offer a sacrifice unto the Lord to try to atone for their sin. Whether that is theologically correct is another discussion. I think that was Job's motive.
Their theology at that time was, if you were doing good, God will bless you and all these good things will happen. And if bad things happen to you, it's because you're evil and you did something wrong.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think we can prove that, can we?
Well, if you look at how Job's friends are questioning him, and what Job didn't do is said, your theology is all wrong. He just said, but I haven't done anything wrong. You see what I'm saying? It's instead of rebuking the theology that they were spouting, because God does, He said, who darkens my counsel without knowledge? He's like, but I didn't do anything wrong. He's saying, yeah, that's true. In fact, Job agrees with him a lot of times. I know that what you're saying is good, but I haven't done anything.
I would say that points more to legalism on his part.
Well,
Whatever the
yeah,
legal
yeah.
was at that point. But
Right.
I don't know that we can say that we don't know what all of that legalism was per se. Or anything.
Well, they're
We know that there was a sacrificial system because clearly
yes,
Job,
yeah. Yeah, I think the sacrificial system got implemented with Adam. You know, now the official Levitical thing is years down the road, but they were, Noah's sacrifice. I mean, we could go through and show Abel, so on, sacrificed. But when you start looking at what his friends have to say, Job never says, hey, that's just terrible theology. That's not how things work. He just defends himself. So, but I think if you try to give a big picture of the book of Job, Job's focus is on worldly things, not bad, not saying they're bad. His family, good thing, thing to be concerned, right? His living in that. And when that's all taken away, he is confronted with his friends. He tries to say, but I haven't done anything wrong, chapter after chapter. Then Elihu steps in and rebukes him because he says, you are justifying yourself rather than God. Okay? And then you have the end where God comes in and starts giving him all these questions that Job can't answer. And it's kind of gets Job's focus on, what am I? And focused on God. And I think if we did like a modern day account of Job, it would be like someone that I go to church, I do this, I do all of these wonderful things, I'm concerned about people, and I'm trying to do everything right, and all of this tragedies thing starts happening, and other people come around and say, well, that's just God's chastening. And the person says, but I haven't done anything. I've been doing what I'm supposed to. I even was teaching Sunday school and all of this. And they argue back and forth. It's not about those things. Those are good things. It's about your relationship with God. The church at Ephesus, what did they get rebuked for? They did everything right. They were leaving off their relationship with God. When the disciples see a guy born blind, their question was what? Who sinned? Was it him or his parents? Because, someone did for this guy to be born blind. And Jesus says, no, this was to glorify God. And so what I think we can call humanism is being focused on the things of man. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Family, friends, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the focus, the church at Ephesus, they stood up for truth. Not a bad thing, right? They found those that were lying and wouldn't have anything to do with them. Good things. But they were leaving off their relationship. So
is that why God did this then? Is to show
well, I can't say definitive, but I think that's part of it, and I think it's for us to learn by,
Because it just seems, when you first read it, you're like, he just turned Job over to Satan.
Yeah. Hey, Satan, you're kind of slacking. Have you considered Job over here? Come on.
That's exactly what he says.
Yeah.
It's like,
You slacking serpent, you. Slither over here.
So anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah, when you get to the end, then you can see that, Job did have issues that he wanted him to address, but.
Right.
Yeah. But when
So
you
someone
read it,
can-
you're like, what?
Someone can be doing all the right things for the wrong reasons. It can be very selfish. You know, why is it that we want to trust Christ as our Savior? Is it just because I don't want to go to hell? Is it because I want a mansion and streets of gold and I want all the good things? Isn't that very selfish? Isn't that me focused then? What I can get out of it? And not how great God is that He would even consider wanting to come and die in my place and want a relationship with me? You know? So I think Job kind of brings that out in a way. He's doing the right things, but is he doing it for the right reasons? Because when you get to the end, he's just like, I abhor myself. You didn't see that in the beginning. He justified himself.
Yeah, he did.
At the end,
Because he did. He didn't understand.
right. And I think each of us, as we walk with Christ and we start realizing my old self is pretty nasty. And I don't want anything to do with that old self. And it keeps creeping back in. And when it does, like, oh my goodness, you know? Yeah.
So, in response to looking at Job, does this kind of tie us back to the line in James we look at, count it all joy?
Right.
Basically, count it all joy. He went through all that affliction, and at the end was blessed from the Lord.
Right. The end was, but, you know, not necessarily going through it was joyful, but yes.
It wasn't joyful
Right.
going through it.
Right. All things work together for good doesn't mean everything is good. It means it can all be worked together. God can work it together.
That suggests physical blessings, though, not
I
spiritual.
know, but I'm just.
Right. As far as the attitude of at the end,
Yes.
he can count it joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if anybody else feels this way, but maybe some of the point with Job too. And I have no idea where else it says it in the Bible, but he doesn't give us more than we can handle type thing. Like,
Mhm.
he knew that Job was gonna come out on the other side, and that he was gonna still be faithful, and that he was gonna see that it was right. So it lifted Job even higher, even though he kicked him down for a minute. It made Job realize, I am that much stronger, it is that much bigger, this is a more faithful experience that I get to live in now. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but that's kind of what I got from the book of it. Because, yeah, everything was restored, but I think what Job got the most out of was his own strength through it. That God really did bail on him through it. And that he could question God, and that it was still going to be okay.
It almost seems though like the harder trials are the ones where you're successful.
Yeah.
Gideon,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's a good example of it, but,
I actually like Gideon.
Yeah.
oh, well, he couldn't handle the celebration.
All right. So
I like the name Gideon.
when we were going through missionary training, a lot of the missionaries that would come back that had served and been through a lot, their advice was on different things was when you're over there and something major happens, it's a lot easier to stick together and pull through. It's the everyday things in life that can tear a team apart and make people want to go home. You know, it's not the tornado that destroys the house that sends you home. It's the drip that's constantly going on. It's going to drive you crazy. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. These big trials that can come up in our lives, like, oh, it's a Goliath. I know I need the Lord. It's the AI, right? It's just a little bitty town, right? We can just go wipe it out, no big deal. They get stomped on, you know? So, yeah, I think that's very, very biblical. Back to what Ashley was saying, if we go to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Why don't we go to verse 6? For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool. For I will say the truth, but now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me. Unless I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord 3 times, that he might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, would I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So, yeah, he doesn't, a lot of times those things in our life are so that we can realize just how weak we are and how much we need him.
I was thinking of 1 Corinthians 10:13 in reference to what Ashley said.
When he says way of escape?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. There's no temptation taken you, but such as common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer or allow you to be tempted above that you are able, but with the temptation also may a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. Right. Anything else we want to hit on?
I don't know why, but somewhere in your sermon, my brain went off and was thinking of the hymn, Be Still My Soul.
Maybe when I was hitting on the nation of Israel, going to cross the Red Sea, and God says, be still and see the salvation of the Lord.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Then on a certain point I realized I wasn't hearing what you were saying anymore because I was doing it in my head.
That's okay. That happens to me too.
Happens to you too. Hopefully not while you're preaching.
Wait, what am I saying?
He breaks into song.
Okay. Yeah. So, anything else?
Thank you for discussing Job, because
Yeah.
the last time I read that again, I was like, not really totally getting it.
There's
Now, talking through it, it's like, okay, he was doing that because Job, he knew Job would stay faithful, but he also knew that Job was concentrating on himself.
It seems like it to me. That's kind of reading between the lines there. It's not like it's clearly saying that, but when I look at Job's life, he's like, well, I'm concerned about my family. I better sacrifice just in case they said something in their heart. You know, he's very, and when you get to the end, he's like, I can't stand myself. And through it, he's continually justifying himself until Elihu comes along. And Elihu is interesting because he's preparing the way for God to speak. He's preparing Job. And he rebukes the 3 friends. He's like, I'm younger. You guys are the wisdom, so I waited. But apparently, you guys don't know anything. I mean, I'm loosely paraphrasing. Yeah. And when God rebukes, he rebukes the 3 friends. He doesn't rebuke Elihu. So, and Elihu, I can't remember what it means, but El is God. So, it's
What are the three, I know one time you explained what the three friends were like, but what are they again? You said one was like, they were like the different things in the world.
Oh, okay. So if you look at, it's called epistemology. Epistemology is trying to find out what is true. How do you know what you know? Okay. So if you look at what they say, it fits into one of those epistemologies, which will determine your worldview. Okay? So, when he says, so chapter 4 of Job, verse 7, he says, "Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? Even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness shall reap the same." Okay, so what's he relying on? He's relying on past experiences. Remember how these things work, and what have you observed? We call that empirical evidence, right? So how do I know what is true? Through empiricism. Now, when you take that goes right along with naturalism. It means that you can't reproduce a miracle. So obviously God didn't speak the world into existence. You can't prove that with empiricism. So therefore, we'll go with a whole different worldview of origin and things like that. That comes from that epistemology. How do I know it's true? Because I've experienced it and I can see it, I can observe it. Okay. And then if you go to verse 12, it says, this is still chapter 4 of Job, "Now a thing was secretly brought to me. My ear received a little thereof, and thoughts of my visions of the night, when deep sleep falleth on men. Fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all of my bones shake. Then a spirit passed before my face. The hair of my flesh stood up. I stood still, but I could not discern the form thereof. An image was before my eyes, and there was silence. And I heard a voice saying, Now, what kind of... This isn't empiricism. What is this? This is what we call mysticism. They're getting it from an outside. Some mystical being came to him in the night and told him this. So that's how I know it's true. You got a whole different epistemology there. And if you go through their friends and you start studying them, you'll get rationalism. Well, this makes sense. This is reasoning. If this is true, then this is true. If this is true, then this is true. So you must have sinned. That kind of thing. So that's if you look at their friends, Job's friends, they will use different epistemologies to derive at their truth, and it's false. We derive truth from what's called special revelation. That's our epistemology. In other words, God revealed himself to us, and that is true. Psalm 19 is a good one because it divides what we call general revelation and special revelation in those. In verse 1, the heavens declare the glory of God. It is. And the firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line goeth out through all the earth. Their words to the end of the world. In them he hath set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. He goeth forth is from the end of the heaven. His circuit is from the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. So he's talking about, you can look at the general revelation, the stars in the sky, the sun and the moon and the course and everything like that, and you can know some things. You can understand some things. But then verse 7 says, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. So this is what we call special revelation. The observable universe and the creation, general revelation. The things that God reveals through his word, special revelation. Okay. The law of the Lord is perfect concerning the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making the wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired they are than gold, yea, more than fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is my servant warned. In keeping them is their great reward. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou from me, or from my secret faults. Keep back thy servant from presumptuous sin. Let them not have dominion over me. Then I shall be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. So, special revelation tells us all of this, not general revelation. You can look at the general revelation and go, yeah, there had to be a creator. Yeah, he probably has to be pretty powerful. He has to be pretty smart. You can see that. Just like if you went to an art show and you saw a painting. Well, you know there's a painter. Okay? And that's kind of like, duh, right? Well, there's people today that look at creation and go, there wasn't a creator. Now, if you study the painting, you can probably assume a few things about the painter, besides his talent. What did he think about? What is he trying to portray? Now, I know that can be open to interpretation and things like
You
that.
can also use like what type of product did he like to use? Because there's oil-based paints.
Right.
And there's not.
Right, so you can do all that, right? But you're not going to get a full understanding of who he is or what he's doing at the time or what he has anything to do with you. Okay, same kind of thing. We can see the creation and we can assume some things about the Creator. That doesn't mean that we're going to conclude that, oh, he must love us enough to become a man, live a perfect life, die for our sins. That's special revelation. We would not ever come up with that plan of salvation without God revealing it to us.
So when we engage in apologetics with things like prophecies fulfilled, or with some of the name or number things, are we engaging in general revelation or?
I think because when you're talking about that, you're dealing specifically with the Word of God, which is special revelation. We're trying to get people to understand the special revelation. And I don't think there's anything wrong with using general revelation, but you're not going to get someone understanding salvation through general revelation. No. They can conclude that there's a God. Like you could go in depth on creation stuff. Right. And people, they're going to say, well, I know that's what it says, but I just don't want to believe it. Right. Okay, well, you're just denying facts. You're denying the obvious. Well, I see the painting, but I don't want to believe that there's a painter. Because if there's a painter, then I'm going to be accountable. Right. Kind of a thing. If there's a creator, if I recognize that, then my life might change. I might, have to.
You got to wonder what he might want.
Right. So I don't think there's anything wrong with using general revelation, but it can only take you so far.
Okay.
Anything else?
Back to the
Epistemologies?
yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna think of the E word. So mysticism.
Yes.
There is a spot in the Bible where it talks about how we're not supposed to make Christ mystical like that with the mysticism, right?
Well, we're not supposed to deal with witchcraft and things like that. I can't think of something specifically that says we're not supposed to make Christ mystical. I mean
God, Christ. I kind of combine them.
So this would be a way of revelation, okay? So in other words, I wouldn't want to say that, I got this dream last night, and now I'm going to reveal new truth to you.
No, because then that's I know that goes into, if an angel or something
Right.
like that comes to you,
Right.
you know, then
Right.
it's a different doctrine, it's not for me.
Yeah. So mysticism is saying this is how we find out what is true, not getting into the Word of God, not His Word. We're going to, I saw a bird fly, and that must mean this. What?
Yeah, so you're connecting symbols and signs
Right.
to Christ. I used to do that, so that's why
Yeah.
I'm curious a little bit about it.
Yeah.
so.
I
Yeah.
saw a cardinal, so it must be a visitor from heaven.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. You hear that? You hear that a lot.
Or a butterfly landing on your foot.
What happens when
I
I?
love seeing all that.
What happens when I'm picking them off the grill because I've ran into a bunch of them?
Freedom will hear about it and you'll be in jail for a night.
Pretty tasty animals. Okay. Anything else on the mysticism?
No.
Oh,
So I have one more question.
Okay.
And you probably, maybe you know about it, you probably don't. So a while ago I was talking to you about something and you said look up the halo effect.
oh, yeah.
Do you know what? This is the only way I remember it. Madonna and child, like a person viewing somebody that way.
I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I'll have
I
to
know.
look more.
So, but I can talk about the halo effect.
Yeah, we can talk.
So, for those who have probably never heard of it, it's more of in psychology. Someone views someone and they can't do any wrong. You know, like they have a halo. No matter what they do, they defend them. Okay. Some people will do that with political people, right? They're behind a candidate. They're vested in this candidate. And even as a candidate, they want to explain it away. Like, what's that? Kids could be that. Could be husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. All kinds of things like that. It's really bad if someone is in a terrible relationship and that person can do no wrong.
Trying to justify it.
Right. Well, they only did that because I did this. So, you know, they're fine. It was me, you know, that kind of thing. So that's what the term
Yeah.
gets to.
Yeah. So what happens when a person saw somebody as a halo effect, you know, had like that halo effect, but then they see the reality, and then there's a different term for that, I think. Like everything they see is bad.
Oh, okay. What's that? Black-pilled? Yeah, that's a term that gets used.
What is it, black pill?
Black-pilled. In other words, it's all bad, no matter what. There's no hope, like a nihilist.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with nihilism. Yeah, so it gets used a lot in like the political sense. I think a lot of it comes from the Matrix, you know, red pill, blue pill.
Yeah.
If you're red pill, then you know what's going on. Well, then there's also a white pill. A white pill is basically whatever's going on, doesn't matter how bad it looks. Oh no, that's part of this bigger plan, and it's all staged and made for that, and it's going to be just fine. You just got to wait and see. You know, that's white pill. Like no matter what happens, that was part of the plan. Then there's black pill, where even something good, no, that's going to be bad anyway. You know, they're only doing that because it's always a bad reason. The white pills are always a good. What's that?
TDS.
Yeah. Well, it can be, or it can be because I know people that doesn't matter what side. It's all garbage. There's nothing good, and it's, you know, you probably heard there's right wing and there's left wing, and well, that's just two wings on the same bird. You know, takes both to fly. I think that there's a biblical view, and you judge a tree by its fruit. You know, Becky and I used to work with a realtor in Minnesota, and he would always say, you know how you can tell a politician is lying? Their lips are moving, right? Yeah. Anyway,
So how do you find the middle ground between all that?
well, one, you establish things in truth, but you, like I said, you judge a tree by the fruit. It's easy to talk and say the right thing. Is someone consistently living it out? Okay, so it would be great if all we judge politicians by is their voting record. What were they for? What were they against?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Now that makes it impossible because you got people that have never held a position. So there's no voting record. Okay, so I'm not trying to say that's how it should be, but when it comes to trying to really figure out a politician, one of the best ways is to look at the voting records. Okay? Because that's going to tell you more than just what they say. Because they can say one thing and vote another way. Or they don't show up. Well, that was convenient. They needed your vote and you didn't show up. So you can't say, oh, I voted against it. No one can say that because they didn't, but they weren't there, so they couldn't. You see what I'm saying? And so when it comes to like relationship or people in families and stuff like that, if you've ever dealt with people that were addicted, whatever it's drugs or alcohol, they can be very convincing, but their life can show something very different. So how do you judge?
Based on their actions.
Judge on their actions. You want to help them, but right now you can't until they're consistently doing the right thing and making the right decisions. Then you can get behind them, I think. Okay? And it's no different than the trust in other relationships. When that gets destroyed, you can't go by what people say. You have to take time, give them opportunities and see if they prove themselves or not to be trustworthy. And then you can, because you're going by what they're doing.
Yeah. Because then their actions match their words.
Right, right.
Yeah, you can't have them saying one thing and then turning around and doing another.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I'm not saying you have to do that with every person. I'm saying that when you're asking how do you know how to deal with someone, you went from maybe a halo effect to now it doesn't matter what they do, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're just doing that because of this. Yeah, that's wrong too. Okay, the middle ground is, are they consistently doing what they are saying?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I was curious because I was like, oh, this is all new to me. Like, this all hearing about all this stuff. Like, this is stuff that, you know, when I was growing up, I never heard of any of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But there was another terminology that I heard, and that was the Madonna and Child.
I don't know that one.
And so the way I understand it is, it's a view of one person, but kind of like how they treat people. So like they'll treat this person terribly, but then they'll treat this person good.
Oh, that's what the Pharisees did.
And so it'll be, yeah, and so the terminology that because I was in counseling, and so the terminology, and this was years ago, that the way he worded it, I believe he called it the Madonna and Child, you know, which means they expect this person to do, it was like an expectation, like this one had to be a certain way, but then this one had, this person over here, like say it was a friend or something, they could do anything they wanted.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird.
That I think is,
And so I was wondering if there was anything in the Bible with that.
well,
That's what I'm curious.
yeah, I think that's just part of our sinful flesh that does that, because I think we can all be guilty of that, having favorites. And that was one thing that Jesus was very much different. He didn't show partiality. The whole book of James, remember how they would treat people, some people better than others, depending on their status and things like that. When Jesus talked about the Pharisees, he says, he said, like, you know, here's what I want you to do. Love those that can't love you back. Because don't even the hypocrites, don't they even treat their friends good and the other, you know. So I think that there's a lot of that throughout Scripture, but I don't necessarily think that that's what I would call like a disorder as much as our sin nature. So I drive a school bus, right? I've got, I don't know, 26 crumb crunchers. And it's very easy to have favorites.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
You know, the nice kid that sits up there and talks with me a lot if he's in a different seat and he stands up, I might cut him a little slack. I'm tempted to cut him a little slack, and well, he's just stand up for a little bit doing something. Where the other one that's constantly standing up and I'm constantly getting on, as soon as he pokes his head up, you know, kind of a thing. And not the other one. It's like, no, I need to be consistent. If it's wrong for this one to stand, or this one to stand, it's wrong for this one to stand, and I need to be consistent. But I think that flesh in us, that sinful nature, just wants to, well, I'll give because I like this one better, you know. So I think that's just part of our sinful nature.
I might have it wrong, so I'm gonna see if I can't find, because I save like everything, so I'm gonna go back through my notes from a couple of years ago
Okay.
and see if I can't find it, and maybe I have it wrong. Maybe I misspoke or
Yeah, I
have
don't
the
know.
wrong thing said. Because it's a little bit more than just having a favorite. You know, and
Well, I'm just saying, you're
Yeah.
playing favorites. You're treating some people better than others. Yeah.
yeah, so I'll go back and see if I can't find what I was
Okay.
talking about and get through that.
All right. Anything else? All right. I can pray and we can be dismissed. Father, thank you for all you've done for us. Thank you for your word, and that we can come together freely and talk about all these different things. And Lord, just ask that we would be focused on you in our lives and following after you all the time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Talking about your bus. I have a grandson